Okay, friends, it is time for my Q1 wrap-up. This is going to be all of the books that I have read in January, February, and March. And because we have a lot of ground to cover, I'm just going to give very short, one-sentence reviews for each of these books. If you want more in-depth thoughts, feel free to ask, or there may be a reading vlog out there with some more in-depth thoughts on the specific books. Alright, let's jump straight in. The first book that I read in January, the first book of 2022 in general, was Migrations by Charlotte McConaghy. This was a recommendation from Ashley's Little Library, and it just so happened to be like a 5-star read right out of the gate for 2022. Loved it so much. And I'm already breaking my statement of saying I'm going to do a one-sentence review. So, one-sentence review for Migrations. This book has the introspective writing style that I love, as well as the isolated female character trope, and so much mystery that I couldn't necessarily figure out what was going on until the very end. Come Tumbling Down was not my favorite of the Wayward Children series, but I did enjoy it. I have found I much prefer the books where we're following one character in one new world versus kind of the group quest-style books, which is what this was. Still a fantastic series. Babylon's Ashes, again, not my favorite book out of the series. Honestly, I don't remember much about it, and that's because I had COVID while I was reading this book. Rabbits was written by a film and screenwriter, and it read like it was meant to be a screenplay and not a novel. I did finish the book and go, what did I just read? But not in necessarily the best way. Cultish was a fantastic nonfiction. It really had me by the end of the book questioning my own choices and having a better understanding of the way I interact with cult-style phenomenons in our culture. Truly a fantastic read. The Jungle Book actually really surprised me. This is a collection of short stories, and the first 2 center around Mowgli, like in the movie The Jungle Book. The last 3 do not, and I did not enjoy them as much, but I absolutely adored the Mowgli stories and want to get a much nicer edition of this in the future. We Sinners came out of nowhere and knocked me flat on my ass. This is a story of religious trauma and honestly goes great with the Cultish book because it features themes of religious fundamentalism and how it is steeped in an immigrant family's culture. Sobbed through the whole thing, absolutely fantastic, worth a read. Now for the books I read in February. Gone Girl was pretty much exactly what I expected it to be based off of the cultural zeitgeist that I've felt in the last several years. I did go on a mini hyperfixation after reading the book and had to watch the movie as well as look up a bunch of YouTube videos on it afterwards, but I eventually got it out of my system and moved on. Leave the World Behind surprised me. It's very much not what I expected, but I really enjoyed getting an inner look at the family dynamics that we're following, as well as the conversations on humanity and survival. The Alienist was better than I expected. I really enjoyed the TV show on HBO Max/TNT, depending on when you watched it, and wanted to see how the book stood up and how different it was. And honestly, they were very similar. The TV show made some very needed changes when it comes to representations of minority characters, but I still really enjoyed this surprisingly, and enjoyed the writing style a lot as well. For a book that's this dark and disturbing, I had a good time. When No One Is Watching by Alyssa Cole was pretty good. I definitely got the creepy, mysterious vibes as well as the comparisons that people make to Get Out. It was very similar in feel. I wasn't like a huge fan of it, but I know I'm not the target audience, so I'm just gonna leave it at that. Emissary was very poorly written, but I actually ended up having a good time. It's very much what I would call cozy fantasy, as in it's set in a fantasy world with recognizable themes and creatures and magic systems and tropes and storylines. It's all very recognizable and everything was so easy. Most well-written fantasy ends up getting complicated and exploring a lot of deep things within humanity as well as storytelling, and this was not it. I enjoyed myself for the break that it was and just an escape into a very lighthearted, zero consequences tale, but I would not call this great literature. Normal People by Sally Rooney absolutely wrecked me, and I felt discombobulated for days afterwards. And then we watched the show with my husband, and I was so pleased that the TV show gave him the same feelings that the book gave me, and Sally Rooney became an instant auto-buy, auto-read author for me. The next 4 I'm just going to do all together because I have a reading vlog on all 4 of these books if you want my in-depth thoughts, but I reread these to see if I wanted to get rid of them, and the conclusion was yes, I want to get rid of them. They are not what I would call a paragon of the YA fantasy genre, but they are fun and atmospheric. They do not handle representation of people of color very well, and took a very stereotypical white Southern approach to the Civil War, which is, let's just pretend like it didn't happen the way we think it did and that it's not really a big deal. But, you know, we all know the Civil War is a huge deal. Quick honorable mention to Beautiful Redemption, because what the actual hell. This book was completely out of nowhere, did not fit with the vibe of the other 3 books, and tried to put a pretty bow on the story of the first 3 books without doing any work at all. I absolutely hated Beautiful Redemption. Conversations with Friends, another Sally Rooney. I did not enjoy this one as much as normal people, but I still enjoyed it a whole heck ton of a lot, and I hate cheating stories that feature a cheating romance. I hate them completely, but Sally Rooney will make me connect to any character ever, and that's all you really need to know about her. And the last book of February was Sky in the Deep. I picked this up on a whim, and it was very lighthearted YA Viking-inspired adventure / romance romp, and that was exactly what I got out of it. Nothing groundbreaking, nothing mind-blowing, but it was a good time, and I'm gonna read the sequel. Well, sort of sequel. The first book I read in March was Station 11, and I was pleasantly surprised by this book as well. It was nothing like what I was expecting based off of reviews that I had heard, but I had a good time with it, and it was kind of weird. The only issue that I really had was I didn't necessarily care about the people in the past, like pre-collapse, but I understood why the author wrote the story with the flashbacks and the going back and forth, but it didn't suit my sensibilities, and I probably would have written it differently, but I did not write the book, so it doesn't really matter what I would have done differently. And then the next 2 books back to back were All Those Stars and Teeth and All the Tides of Faith. I had to look at the titles because I don't remember what they are. This was a fun YA fantasy duology. I really enjoyed all the nautical themes and the mermaids and the sea and the ocean vibes. Like, I love anything that is set in the ocean, has to do with the magic of the ocean. I had some issues with the writing style and did not super connect to any of the characters on any deep level, and I also didn't really like the ending. I felt like it was too clean cut and obviously had been plotted out from the beginning, and it didn't necessarily feel natural. But very fun YA adventure duology. Love The One You're With by Emily Giffin. I didn't love, but it absolutely did cause me to rethink my perspectives on Emily Giffin's romance novels, because I always expect these to be like fluffy, lighthearted romances, and then that's not what I get at the end of the book, and I'm always disappointed. But I realized with this book that Emily Giffin writes unlikable characters. Like, she tends to write her protagonists as very unlikable, that make stupid decisions that we don't agree with. And for some reason, I just never expect that going into her books. I did not hate this one as much as Baby Proof, but I would probably still put it as like 4th in the list of books by her that I have read. Looking for Alaska was definitely not my cup of tea. I didn't read it when I was in high school, and it's probably a good thing because I would have gotten very snobby about it because this was not for me, but not all books are for me. I also think the movie trailer kind of did me a disservice because I expected a completely different story based off of what the movie trailer told me this book was going to be about. And it was not about that at all. I think overall I liked what John Green was doing here, but at the same time I have issues with it personally, and again, it's just not for me. The day before I picked up Across the Green Grass Fields, I said to my husband, I'm in the mood for a horse girl book, because I used to read horse girl books when I was younger. And just so happens, this is a horse girl book. So if you've been like wanting to get into Wayward Children series and you're a horse girl, like this is exactly where you should start. Seanan McGuire has said it doesn't matter at what point you come into the series. And I actually really had fun with this book. All of the books in the series are novellas. They're super short. They're incredibly well written, and they pack punches, like serious punches. This book features a intersex character. I have never read a book from the perspective of an intersex character before, and it was fantastically done. In my opinion, I can't speak on the topic because I am not an intersex person. However, Seanan McGuire typically does a okay, just general way of writing minority characters. And last but certainly not least, Beautiful World, Where Are You by Sally Rooney. And this completes my journey of reading Sally Rooney's like published books. I know she has some other like novellas and short stories out there, but for published books, this was the last one, and I think I liked it better than Conversations with Friends, but I get why people didn't like it as much as the others. It follows more characters than we're used to and focuses on more themes of friendship than I think the others two do. But I'm going to do a complete like love gush review for Sally Rooney's books in a separate video because, again, now one of my auto-buy authors, and I absolutely loved it. I need to buy them because I read all of her books on audiobook, and I can't wait to reread them in physical form. Wow, okay. I have no idea how long that took, but it felt like it took a very short amount of time. For more information on why I've decided to start doing quarterly wrap-ups instead of monthly wrap-ups, I'm only posting videos on Saturdays this year, which means I get 4 videos a month, and doing a wrap-up every month was going to get tedious for me as well as not enjoyable because I want to be posting other things, other types of content. And if I'm dedicating 12 out of my 48 videos for the year to wrap-ups, then I'm not gonna have a very good year. And because we're doing, you know, lots of books at one time, I thought this quick rapid-fire version would work out best. If you did not like it, go ahead and let me know. I don't mind having an hour-long wrap-up if you want to watch it. But as always, please let me know if you have read any of these books or what books you read in the month of March or in your quarter one. If you have a wrap-up up, I would love to go watch it. Please link it in the comments because I will immediately go watch it as soon as I see it pop up in my feed. But if you like the books that I read and the way I talk about what I read, make sure you subscribe. I'm trying to post videos every Saturday this year. I'm not always successful. I hope you're enjoying whatever you're reading, and I will see you in the next video.